What's up? Get things started. Get some music going. All right. Well, we got some fun new stuff working today. Back from SoCal Open. Got all of our Votan stuff painted up for that. So we're back to being able to do some more, kind of easygoing, fun stuff for a little while. So I'm going to be alternating stream projects. We've got some 40K stuff that I want to get started on just because I'm excited for it right now. And then we're gonna have some stuff from some different game systems or just some cool models to work with. Now that we're not like under a time crunch for a while. And for people who follow 40K, we just had a big update. We had the Munitorum field manual, or like points thing. And so I changed up some stuff. And after my experience at SoCal Open with Votan, I've got all that stuff done. They're good. I can keep playing that for a while. And I'm not going to be playing in anything until into November. So now I just get to focus on some other stuff that I've been wanting to do for a while. Some of which is expanding my Space Marine collection. So one thing I want to do with my Ultramarines collection is add in units that are more bespoke to the other Space Marine codexes, just because playing in tournaments, balance shifts one way or the other, and sometimes the more like vanilla Marines are not in as good of a place as, say, like Dark Angels or Blood Angels, stuff like that. And so rather than just have all these multiple armies where I had to start from scratch every single time I play them, I'm going to do additions to my Ultramarines. So that means like some character models, some different things. And the cool thing is that like by having that in the Ultramarines stuff, I can pull from the rest of my collection to make armies and not have to start from scratch. So I want to do some Space Wolf stuff. They got some cool things going on, and I might want to play that for my first event in November. Remains to be seen. We'll have to see what happens. But I've got some of that stuff ready to go. We've got a couple of really cool character models. These guys. So this guy, that's the more beige color. This is a resin cast model from like an individual artist. And I've had it for years. I just never got around to painting it. Like, it's just been in a drawer in my office for I think like 4 years or something. I just never painted it. So finally got him put together, and he's going to be a Terminator character. A little shiny. So I plan on using this guy for like a Terminator character. He could be a bunch. Like, I think Space Wolves have like 30 in Terminator armor. So he'll be super fun to paint. And then I got this guy, who's from RTLW, their boutique resin caster. And this is their sort of do-it-all Space Wolf type character model. He can make a bunch of different stuff, but in this configuration, he's a chaplain. The Space Wolves have an epic hero named Ulrich the Slayer. Cool. Want to get him painted up. And I mean, he can also work as a chaplain or some other thing moving forward. We've got some of these retro Marines. I've painted these on the channel before. I'm gonna do some more of those. Looking pretty cool. I got some Terminators. We kind of started to do some of these as like a CSM offshoot. See, they're in that like red color. But I decided against that, and so I'm just gonna paint these guys as Ultramarine Terminators. Be able to use them. It'll be fun. I've also got Dreadnoughts. Oh, Kenny coming in with a big grade. What's up, everybody? Showing off some of these models we're going to be working on. Got this really cool Dreadnought kit. This is also from Artel W. With his gun and a sub-assembly. Super ornate, really cool looking Dreadnought, and can do a lot of things, but in this list idea, he's going to be the one of the named Dreadnoughts, Bjorn the Fell-Handed. So that should be super fun to paint. I got another Dreadnought. He's over in the project box. This guy's a 3D printed model that I got from Spiky Bits, along with some claw arms. And this guy is going to end up being my version of what are they called? The new Redemptor Dreadnoughts. I can't remember. But yeah, so I'm going to use this guy as like Murder Claw for the time being. So that way I have Bjorn and Murder Claw. But then if I want to use this guy as whatever that new... Oh, Brutalis Dreadnought. Thanks, Renegade. If I want to use a Brutalis Dreadnought, I can just put him on a different base. Kind of elevate him up a little bit for size. He's got the big old claw arms. I've also got these guys. I'm still working on cleaning up. I got these wolfen looking dudes. They're like werewolf Space Marines that I got from Spiky Bits, and they're just a lot of parts because I got like 20 of them. And so basically today was just like getting these cleaned up until my Dremel ran out of power, and so I'll probably get those assembled tomorrow. For the people that just joined, I was showing off these cool character models. Get this guy in Terminator plate, and this dude who's supposed to be like an epic chaplain type guy, looking pretty cool. And yeah, we're just gonna be adding to the Ultramarines collection rather than starting whole new armies every time I want to do something different. Off to the side here, I've got these looking really cool. These are some Vindicator stand-ins I like the look of. Neat. I don't know if I'm going to get to those today. Probably just going to focus maybe on like 1 or 2 models. But yeah, so we're going to be doing some ultra wolves, whatever we want to call them. Yeah, this guy is like really cool. I was saying, like, I got this guy from a man, I can't even remember his name. He was like a one-man operation out of the UK where he would make these true scale Space Marine characters, different things. And I painted one on the channel that was like a Dark Angels dude, like way back, like 6-7 years ago, I think. And I've had this guy for almost that long, now that I think about it. Just kicking around in a drawer. And I finally was like, you know what? I'm going to paint this guy. I've been waiting forever. I'm going to do it. And also, like, I have a Ragnar Blackmane that Kenny painted back when his model came out, however long ago that was. And he's just been in a display case like this whole time. I'm like, you know what? I want to play that model. I want to use it. So rather than start a whole new army, I'm just gonna paint these guys as like Ultramarines colors. Let's get going. I got my paints out already. I'm going to be trying out one of the newer Pro Curl paints. See how it holds up to the Ultramarines colors. Actually called Ultramarine. This one of the new signature paints. Newish. Because normally what I use is this blue. They're similar, but a little bit different. And so I just want to see what this one looks like, and then if it doesn't work, I'll just start over. Let's get the airbrush going and get a coat of primer on this guy. I work with a lot of resin models, so anytime I work on one on the channel, I try to kind of narrate through some of the process. Like whenever you're priming resin models, I kind of want to start off like this, where you're just doing like a real light coat over the whole thing. This, some of those areas I can spin them out to get the legs. And just give that a second. Like just give that a second to kind of dry out. And what that's going to do is help our primer stick to that ultra smooth resin. You can sand the models a little bit, like just through working with this guy and doing cleanup, I did a little bit of sanding and stuff like that, so that'll also help the paint stick. But just in general, resin is kind of a tricky medium to work in compared to the plastic that we're used to. Same thing with like a lot of 3D prints. These guys want to get like a light coat of primer on there and just let it kind of sit for a little bit, let it dry out. Doesn't take too long because we're working with an airbrush. And then we can go in, start building that up to full capacity. Solid base coat. Get a nice clean primer on there. Notice that I'm not focusing on any one area of the model. Constantly moving my airbrush around or moving the model around, getting different angles. So that way I don't get too much wet paint buildup in any one area and risk it cooling or getting too wet and then the air from the airbrush pushing that wet paint out. Probably heard people online call it spider webbing. Anytime that I see like a gloss kick back from that paint, I want to move on to a different area, change my angle. So I don't risk that. It's nice, his beige resin is kind of easy to see, so I know if I missed anywhere. It's tricky angles, undersides of stuff. That's good. Get the camera. This sees better than I do. Pushing these up. See, there's a spot like in his armpit. Got it. Got one right there. I think that's good. Say as I keep spots. Up by his head. All right, good enough. Try. Might as well just go ahead and hit some of these other models while he's drying out. Not wasting paint. Pick up this chaplain dude real quick. spray a little primer on these dudes. We gotta wait for Big Boy to dry out anyways. Rather than just sit here doing nothing, you can be working on stuff. Ran out of primer. Go ahead and clean the airbrush out. Some cleaner in there. Depending on your airbrush make and model, might be able to backflow air. But, can't do that with Badgers. Or I like to get the semi-dried paint off of the airbrush cup anyways. Just don't let any of that build up in the first place. We're going to be working with some dark colors to start off, so we don't have to be surgically clean, but that's more than good enough. Check our guy. Pretty good, still a little wet. There you right there. So, see. This dark blue is what I've been using as my first base color for Ultramarines for a very long time. Really, really, really great midnight blue to get that blue shadow color. And then I've also been using just the flat blue, regular old blue for a long time. And the way that I pop that with highlight is I don't want to lose any saturation. I'm sure what I'm talking about. You know, sometimes people will want to highlight with something like gray blue or a more like sky blue kind of pastel tone, like the faded Ultramarine. And I find that those just kind of suck the color out of that really nice royal blue that we want. When working with Ultramarines, I want to keep that saturation nice and high. So to do that, I do a little pop with turquoise. We don't want a whole lot because this color is also very bright. So if you have too much of this, it can blow out the color. It's like overexposure camera. But as a way to get that hyper highlight for our royal blue, great for that. How we looking? Yeah, he's good. Dry. Really cool model overall. He's big. So here's the new GW Terminators, and so he's like a head taller than them. Big boy. But that's how I like my characters. I like them larger than life. Dark blue in the airbrush. Bit of flow improver. Stir that up. I want this layer to be able to be a little translucent. I don't want 100p opacity, just so that some of the black paint in the deepest shadows is going to inform that blue. We're just going to do kind of an all over. I'm going to maintain a little bit of a high angle. I don't want to be spraying from up underneath if I can avoid it. Professor was walking a little bit. Don't want to spray it underneath if I can avoid it. So that way, deepest panel lines and underneath shadows still have some of that black paint peeking through. I mean, even if you're doing like regular Space Wolves, this is a way to start those projects. You can start with a really dark blue. Depends on like what kind of vibe you're going for with your Space Wolves. Some people really like that very light kind of pastel blue-gray. Some people like the more mid-tone, flatter gray with absence of color, kind of like the Heresy style. I kind of like the shadows to be very, very saturated. If I was doing Space Wolves, I'd probably start with this color anyways, and then go to a more blue-gray. Good. Where is my bird? Up here? Let's move the camera. Oh, much better. Camera was a little low. Drooped a little bit. Yeah, dude, I mean, like, you know, 40K as a game relies on specific models doing things. And so having those be visually distinct is, you know, just something that's baked into the game. Like Games Workshop does that. But to go a step beyond that, when I have a cool character model, I almost want them to be like, almost like a slightly larger scale than the rest of everything else. So that way it's like, not only do you get like a super dope model, you know, leading your squad or whatever, but it stands out on the table. It stands out when you have your collection laid out for, you know, pictures and stuff. Some of our regular, oh man. Said I was going to try out that new paint and I just went into muscle memory and poured in the same blue. I'm trying Ultramarine. Okay. Got our Ultramarine in there. Let's try to just really lightly and then by angle. create some directional highlights by dividing up the different parts of his body into their shapes. So shoulders being kind of spherical, arms and legs being cylindrical. That's going to inform how we highlight those areas. So for cylinders, you want to highlight up and down, straight line, kind of like up and down for a cylinder. Then for a circle, you want to kind of start in the middle, radiate outwards. Yeah, it's not a foolproof every single time sort of thing. You know, the pose of the model is going to inform that a lot. Nice looking color. I have an Ultramarine guy handy. I'll have to compare it later. I mean, that's not too dissimilar. Joss is going on the top. Eh. The main thing that I'm using that specific dreadnought for is Murder Fang. So I'll be fine for the time being. Got some of that turquoise mixed in. Like I said, this is where I want to be really careful. So let's turn our air down. There's my little inline dial right here. Just turn that down. Based on how I want it to feel. We're working really close to the model. I'm going to keep with our directional highlights. Just to have super hyper highlighted blue. with. These new inks I was thinking about trying out. So let's do this instead. Grab a heavy titanium white. That ultramarine color was like a little too muted for my taste. So I want to be able to bring back some more saturation to this without undoing what we've done. So I'm going to treat our blue almost like a pre-shade. We'll do a color tint over the whole thing. But first, I need one more layer of pop here. So I'm going to grab some of this white. I've got it super duper thinned out. Up a few of those areas, a little bit of that white. Brighten that up slightly. So the next thing I want to do is clean out the airbrush really good. I don't want any of that white pigment left in there. So I want to be able to take our blue paint and thin that out so much so that I can just lightly spray it over the entire model and it creates a color filter. Undead, you know what's up. This is one of those situations where you do want to take the time, very, very thoroughly clean it out. Run some cleaner through there. None of that pigment left. We'll take our original blue that I normally use. It's very, very saturated royal blue. Probably only need like that much paint, a couple of drops. I'm just gonna use some flow improver. Hot. A little bit of thinner. Thin this out like crazy. So now, very gently, way out here, way far out, very gently create a very light layer over the entire model, evenly coating the whole thing. That's just going to take those brighter colors and blue them out a little bit. Put that color filter over the top, and that's just going to bring some of that saturation back, lost, and more uniformly color our gradient. Oh yeah, that's what I wanted. Much prettier. Okay, so that's cool to know. The Ultramarines color is a little muted for my taste. I mean, it's a great color paint. It's very pretty. It's just this specifically was not going to suit the look of the rest of my army. I've been using the regular blue all this time. So that transparent tone is very fragile. Whenever you do filters like that using a lot of thinner and flow improver, it's going to be a very fragile coat of paint. Very easy to scratch, wipe off. So I'm just going to set this guy off to the side for a second. Just so that air from the fan can get to him, help that dry out, get nice and dry while I'm cleaning out the airbrush. Because the next thing I want to do is protect that paint by using a varnish, clear coat. It's just going to seal that paint up. It's going to help it not discolor or get scratched or chipped or pick up any oils from your skin. Ah, tight. What'd you order? Whenever we're doing varnishes, we want to make sure there's no pigment in the airbrush. Extra super duper clean in there just because this is a clear coat and we don't want any pigment mixing with our varnish. Some of my preferred Lucky varnish from Ammo by Mig. It's satin. Boy, is looking great. Kind of the same thing. I just want to very gently spray over the whole thing. I don't want to be too aggressive. Get all the angles. Constantly moving the airbrush or moving the model around. As soon as I start to see it get a little shiny, a little glossy with wetness, I change my angle and move on. Especially on like the axe, tops of his shoulders and head. Anywhere that I think could get a lot of friction by him being a game piece. I want to make sure that we get a good varnish coat on there. Great. Just set him over here again so we get some air from the fan. I can't state enough how important it is to actually varnish your models. Oh, he's a Terminator. Terminators don't have backpacks. Yeah, I see the he's got the big Terminator shoulder pads and then like the Terminator thing. I know it's hard to tell because he's got the big wolf fur and the cape, so you can't see the back of it. But yeah, he's a Terminator compared to these guys. JK3V. Thanks for that follow. Give that just a... Feels like he's just about to try. Just give it a second. So next thing I want to do is there's probably like two more things on the model that I'll want to airbrush. The fur and his cape. And so whenever I have a model like this, I mean, you can do this for any model, but I prefer to only put in this much work for like characters and set piece stuff. So we've got this guy, he's got his armor, right? And then he's got these wolf pelts and a big old cape. Now, I could hand paint all of that and, you know, do a bunch of wet blending and airbrushing and a whole bunch of other shit. Or what I like to do a lot is I'll figure out the color I want this cape. Let's just say red, because it's probably going to end up being red. I'm just going to pick a base color and I'm going to base that by hand. Solid base coat on that. And then I can go in with airbrush and I can airbrush it, get a really cool gradient on there, just like our armor. For the wolf pelt, I can go in and if it's going to be brown, or gray, or white, or whatever, I can again base that out by hand and then come in and very carefully create like a fur pattern gradient on there with the airbrush rather than having to try to do that by hand. It just takes time, a lot of work, and so I just prefer to airbrush stuff like that if possible. I want to make sure our varnish is nice and dry before I start putting wet paint on there. You know what else we could do? Because like this cape is a little boring. You know, sometimes with characters you have like a lot of ripples and folds and stuff in capes because they're like kind of dynamic. But this guy is more of a like a general commander pose, standing heroically, so his cape is hanging down naturally. So what we could do to kind of spice this up is after we're done airbrushing it, we could put a decal on there, almost like it's embroidery or something like that. And we should probably just take a look at our decal sheets and see what pops up. That might inform the color that we want to paint the cape. Got a whole bunch of decal sheets. So we've got some, obviously we got some eagles. You know, these are a little small. This one's like too big, and these are a little too small. They don't fit our area, and they're black, so I'd have to paint like a white cape. I don't know if I want that or not. I have a bunch of Gundam decals that I like putting on 40K stuff. Like those are maybe a little too small as well. Letters and numbers. Put in the bill. Let's see. I don't think the logo is a good idea for that. Yeah, stuff. Yeah, let's check some of these out. Let's see. We have big old Ultramarine symbols. Those are always an option. That eagle looks like a little too big, ever so slightly. Could do maybe like a double or triple decal layering, like these. It's hard to see because it's white. Eagles lightning bolts. That could be cool. Maybe something in the middle. What else we got? Ooh. This might be the ticket. That looks really cool. I think that's just about the right size. It could be very interesting. So let me cut that one out real quick. Another cool thing we can do is you can actually layer up decals. Do them right. I gotta see if I can find something that'll work. White on white, probably not gonna look all that great. I was hoping I might find something I could use for like a backer. Cool stripe. Ooh, wonder if this work. Not exactly the right. This was straight across, it'd be great. It's like curved. So I don't think that'll work. Got this red stripe, but we're probably gonna make the cape red. Exhausted our options. I wonder if any of our hazard stripings be big enough is the question. I don't think they're long enough to go all the way across. We want it to go from here all the way across to this side. I don't think it's there. I mean, that would be pretty 40k if like hazard stripes under cape. I don't think that happened. Oh wait. Boy, these are just white on white. Dang it. These long enough? That would work. That could be cool. Also got these long stripes. Problem with these is they're like re-weathered. They're like paint chipped. Start there. Maybe just let me cut one out and see. I'm gonna go from this side. Oh wait, wouldn't? Oh well, god dang, totally is long enough. Aha! Space Marines, those are tight. Pick out a nice red color. Probably just gonna go with the old tried and tested. Burnt red, and then maybe some. Let's go. Let's try something a little different. Let's do some red oxide and orange red. Set our decals over here. Yeah, if you're taking a class to get people started, I'm sure they'll put you on the right track. I mean, what I'm doing is probably classified as more advanced stuff, but little peek behind the curtain. None of what I do is actually like that difficult. There's no inherent like magical talent that I was blessed with at birth. I learned all this the hard way and practiced. In fact, like you're getting into it kind of during the golden age. Back when I was a kid, getting into 40K was very difficult, and there wasn't much in the way of people doing painting classes or like teaching people how to break into the hobby and get started. And you know, you would see these old timers and you'd be like, oh, your stuff looks so cool, how did you do that? And I'd be like, well, you know, I'm just, you know, really good at it, dude. They would like guard their secrets like cave trolls. Undead United, thanks for that follow. I had a bit of a leg up because when I was a kid, started doing scale models with my dad. You know, that was kind of it was like a shared hobby that we got into. And go all out, and he'd get the magazines and all that, and he's like, well, if you want it to be good, you got to get an airbrush. And so he like got an airbrush and we started figuring out how to do all that stuff. But then we'd go to like, you know, it's like scale modeling conventions and see these guys that have these like amazing tanks and fighter jets and battleships and be like, oh, how did you do this, how did you do this? And they would just like straight up just not tell you. And there's a little bit of that in the Warhammer world when I got into it. The whole like making content for tutorial purposes was like kind of in its infancy, and you sort of had to source all your information from people that already knew it, or you'd have to go on to like the like Daka forums and shit like that. Get out of here, Nat. Okay, let that dry. Swing him out. The inside of our cape here. Sometimes with this, I like to use a very gentle pressure. Actually push the brush to just very gently get up in there without worrying about hitting our legs. All the stuff, like, wait, dry brushing? What's this sorcery? You know, and like painting stuff is kind of always like seen as like artistic, right? Because that's just sort of how we were raised. Culturally, art is something that's like considered by many to be like a talent, something that you have to train really hard to do with any form of mastery. And like a lot of stuff that we do with painting miniatures, at least, it's just like it's just smoke and mirrors. Now it's like stuff takes practice. You know, you can't just like pick it up and do it innately. But a lot of what I do like isn't artistically talented. It's like it's just practice. There's some intuition involved, but most of it's literally just like I've just been doing this for a while and I care about how my models look and I want to get better. I want my models to look tight. So practice. I mean, like airbrushing is honestly not hard. It's really not. I learned how to airbrush as like a 12-year-old. Yeah, I can send your paints, dude. So like I said, I've been into painting models and stuff since I was 12. So that was 2002. And that's the same year that I found out about Warhammer. But as far as like painting my own Warhammer models, like collecting Warhammer models, stuff like that, like on and off since 2002, but like as a legit on my own hobby, like that I pay for with my money and paint armies and go to tournaments and all that kind of stuff. I've only been doing that since like 2012. Um, I had one army when I was in high school and like my freshman year of college, and I would go to some tournaments with that stuff. That was way back in like fourth edition, like so oh 08, oh 09, like that. Landscape was very different back then. Like you didn't really even have to have painted stuff to play in tournaments. Armies were much smaller than they are now, like less models. You know, and I was just a high school kid, freshman in college, and I was just like I just want to go and like win these tournaments and get free stuff. Didn't care much about the hobby aspect. Here to just gently Hit our cape with some air, help that paint dry out a little faster. Two little spots are kind of slow to dry. If you're in a real hurry, you can also use like a very, very low power heat gun or like a blow dryer if it's really low power. I cut a little piece of our construction paper off here. I use that as a shield. So for these edges right here, I don't want to get red paint on our leg armor. So I can just come in like this, just hold that shield right up to it, and block that area off. Same thing for on here, this other side. Let's load up our red oxide. We're dialed in. Stay in place. Also want to like be conscious of our angles. Use my thumb a little bit just so I don't get the back of the foot. A little bit paint on the back of his foot there, so let's get some water. Brush. This is why varnishing is really a good idea, is because I can just come in with some water and just gently clean that red paint off of there. Let's see, get red paint anywhere else? Doesn't look like it. This edge over here, so let's get our shield in place. Tiny amount on his foot again, let's clean that off. Oop. Very gently off. Just kind of rinse that off, wipe the brush off, get some clean water. And use the capillary action of our brush to just suck that water away. Okay. Orange red. Pretty dang good. That dry. Clean up the airbrush. I played Space Marine 2. Yeah, a lot of fun. So, biggest rookie mistake. I would say I think the biggest rookie mistake is buying into the idea that like Games Workshop products are like the best thing to use for minis. Like that's what you buy into. Because Games Workshop is really great at starting people off in the hobby, like so like they get a gold star on that, but they are very much focused on building brand loyalty and brand dependence, like false brand dependence on people that get into Warhammer. And I see a lot of people that they kind of are like, well, I'm just gonna like, they make 40K and so I'm gonna buy their paints because the guy at the store said they make the best paints. Why would he, tell me different, right? Um, they get their brushes that are overpriced garbage and a bunch of other things like that, right? So I would say like if you want to get into this as a hobby and your priority is like learning how to paint, like I want my models to look cool, I want to learn this hobby, then I would say like, you know, not that you have to take my opinion for everything, but watch people like what I do. There's a bunch of other really talented people here on Twitch and on YouTube, and a lot of people that are great teachers, and they run the gamut. So like not everything I do is the best way of doing something. Not every product that I use is the best product for what we do. You just like search around and get a lot of different opinions, and kind of keep an open mind, keep your ears open. Because something that just like that is like an unarguable fact is that Games Workshop makes amazing models. They make an amazing game, but they make very, very average to flat out garbo peripheral products for the hobby. And they overprice them, right? It's like you go into a store and you want to buy a t-shirt. You can buy a cotton t-shirt for $10 because it has like no brand name, or it's like Champion or something like that, right? But you could buy the same 100% cotton t-shirt from Nike, but because it says Nike and it has a Nike swoosh on it, that t-shirt is $50. Right? Now, is that shirt any better? Like, who's to say? Like, sometimes they do make superior products. Sometimes they make really cheapo stuff, but they overprice it because they can't, because people want to buy stuff that has Nike on it. It's kind of like that with Games Workshop. Like, their paintbrushes are they're ass. They're terrible when you compare them to other manufacturers in the industry. But Games Workshop brushes are priced high. Like they're incredibly overpriced, right? Like their paint, they're selling a paint pot for $8 when everybody else is selling one for $4. And most of the time, these other paint companies are making better paint for that $4, and you're getting more of it for $4. And then I'd say like a close second rookie mistake is um, forming bad habits, like bad painting habits to um, get things done. There's a lot of techniques that are made for like, here's how to do your stuff fast, right? Um, and so there's like, how do I describe this? So you know how like there's like a three-way what are those things called? Venn diagram of like you can have like great, cheap, or fast, right? But you can't ever have all three. Like you can have great and fast, you can have fast and cheap, you can have great and cheap, but you can't have all three, right? So there's a lot of stuff like oh, you can like speed paint, you can do all this stuff, right? And it's like, oh, you just like slap this stuff on there and it's like painted, right? Because it's painted, it has color on the model, right? And so like that's more for people who are like, I care about just like having my models like inside the air quotes definition of like finished, so they can put them on the table and they don't care how their stuff looks. And so like if you don't care how your models look, cool, I don't care. But like if you care about, I want my stuff to look dope and I want to be a good painter, I want to learn how to be a good painter, then like stay away from that stuff. Like don't buy contrast paints. Like don't buy like speed paints or like whatever brand name they're slapping on it from different companies. Like learn how to do things properly rather than like take shortcuts, because then like you're gonna only learn how to do the shortcut way. And when you reach that point where you're like, I want to learn how to do non-metal metallics, or like I want to learn how to wet blend, or like whatever it might be, it's going to be extra frustrating because like you only know how to do something like the wrong way, for lack of a better term. Like I have a lot of students that are like, oh, I want to learn how to do this, and I'm like, well, we gotta baby steps, because like you're painting stuff like the wrong way. So you're trying to build a castle on a pile of sand. You know, it's not gonna work. You gotta have a foundation that works first. Keeps looking tight. Yeah, and you know, like I was saying earlier, none of the stuff that I do, a lot of painters, like a lot of painters that are like way more artsy fartsy than me and do the painting competitions and all that kind of stuff. Like none of what we do is like actually that difficult, you know, and it's not something that you need to just be born with, right? It's literally just effort. Like all it is like how much effort are you willing to put into this? And the more effort you put in, the more payoff you'll get. Quick varnish is want to like show off how to do layered decals. So close. I want to show this off before we get out of here. So like what we want is we want our cape to have this sort of like trim piece like this, right? But we also want to have a cool Ultramarines double eagle on there as well. So if we want this to be over top of that other thing, we have to do this first. I was doing a lot of this on my Votan vehicles recently, but they're packed up right now. So you just kind of have to like think about it, like have a plan first, and think like, okay, I want this like number to have like a racing stripe that it's on top of and that kind of stuff. So like how do I do that? You just gotta think about your order of operations. So if I want to have both of these, but I want the eagle to be like on top of this, so that means I gotta put this on first. So we're gonna get our decal solutions. First solution is micro sol meaning solvent, and a brush that I don't use anymore because this stuff was bad for brushes. So this is going to soften that plastic of the decal. It's going to help it release from our paper. It's going to help take away some of that plasticky shine. Then what I'm going to do is just get a little bit of micro set, which is a decal setting solution. Just going to help it stick to the model. Try to be as gentle as possible. We tease this up on there. Okay. Carefully as I can. I'm gonna move this up or down. Maybe try to maximize how much it's covering. Sometimes I need to use the little butt end of my brush to kind of like tease it a little bit. A little bit of water in the mix here. Help it move around. Trying to get it. Oh, there we go. Shift just a little bit, dude. All right, close enough. Oop, gosh dang it. Not the end of the world, we can put that back. As this stuff leaves a little bit of a chemically dry area. So just taking a little bit of water, very, very gently brushing that out so that when it dries, I don't have like a dry rind spot. Play it on PC. I don't have a console. Just using the airbrush to help dry it out. Dry. Kind of want this to get good and set before layering on the next one. I think we have a teensy tiny little bit on the end. It doesn't want to stick down. I can always come back later with a super sharp little hobby knife and slice that little bit off. Good enough for right now. Get our big decal going. Some water, and then I'm going to brush a little bit of our microsol onto the back of the paper here. Top. Please. Some of our set. Just want to very gently see if I can move this around. I might just have to like drop a whole bunch of water on there to help it like float. Now right on top. Straighten up. Ah, now we're moving the other thing.
I brush all that water out so that this will lay flat. Looks about as symmetrical as I'm gonna get. Oh yeah, there's a lot of people getting into it from different different hobbies. I want. Oh, just lay flat, please. Why is this being so frustrating? Okay. Are we cool? Like every time I try to get it to set, it wants to just like wrinkle up. Just gonna give that a minute. Let's see. Oh man. Sorry for the YouTube guys. I'm not used to having to watch for a YouTube chat just yet. I just started streaming on YouTube recently. Yeah, so what we're doing here is like I wanted to add Space Wolf stuff to my collection, but not start an entirely new army. So my Space Marine army is Ultramarines. We got a big old collection, and so for these more bespoke units, I'm just gonna paint him in Ultramarine colors. So that's what we're doing. And this guy is a Terminator character, Terminator armor character. I honestly, I've had this for like 4 or 5 plus years, just kind of in a drawer. I bought it from this guy who was a sculptor and resin caster. He's kind of like a one-man operation making models, and he doesn't do it anymore. So I've just had this one model just kind of like kicking around in a drawer for a long time, and I finally decided to paint it. And he was missing a hand. I don't know what happened to his hand, so I got like a Terminator hand that I made like a little like power Viking hatchet kind of thing. So he's got an axe and a sword, like dual wielding. So this is just going to be like a stand-in for any one of the Space Wolves Terminator armor characters. And I was trying to get this this decal to work. It's being kind of a bear right now. I can brush it out now that it's kind of had time to been stuck to the model. It's like so hard for me to see. I'm sorry, I have to hold this right up to my face. Just a second. Okay, that'll be fine. It's looking pretty good. Now we've got that cool like little trim piece for the cape and dope little decal on there for like embroidery on his cape. Fun. Now, if I was doing this on my own time rather than trying to do it live, I'd probably give that first decal like plenty of time to get set and dry out before applying a second one, just so we didn't have to like have a situation where one is going to move on you while you're trying to put the second one down. But you get the idea. Cool way to add decals, have like multi-layered things going on. Ooh, snakes that followed. It's a good stopping spot anyways. Anytime that I do decals, even if it's just regular ones. Oh, I just noticed this one moved a little bit more. Gosh dang it. Stay where you're supposed to stay, dude. I like to let these completely air out before I do a varnish on them to seal it in. There's a lot of like evaporation that needs to happen. Sometimes there's like very tiny amounts of like water or your decal setting solution trapped underneath that needs to like work its way out and evaporate. And so before I varnish this and totally seal it in, I want to let all that happen. And so whenever I'm working with like squads of models, I plan my painting schedule around like I'm going to do XYZ, finish that out with putting all my decals on. And then once all the decals are set, I'm just going to like step away for the evening. Like that's my paint session for the day. And then when I come back the next day, like they're 100% good to go, and I'll just like varnish over them real quick and get right back to painting. And we've been going a little over an hour and a half, which is typically what I want to keep the show to. And so when we come back on Friday, we can get into some of the other stuff. I'll probably do a little bit of work on this guy in between, just stay busy. I might work on some of the other models. I don't know yet. But we got a lot. So we got to do all the fur, get into that. And then from there, it's mostly just painting regular Space Marines. We got to do like the head and the face. Cool. We've got all these like metallic bits, little like adornments to his armor and everything. So that stuff is kind of like the easy peasy things. And once we get past that, it's mostly just, you know, fit and finish. But looking cool already. Blue's looking great. So I call it there for the evening. And so for the new people, what we do here on Twitch is like whenever we finish a show, we raid into somebody else. We take all the viewers of this channel and it sends them over to another channel. And so if you're on YouTube, there's nothing I can do about that. The stream is just going to end. So if you want to like stick around with the stream and then go see somebody else, go watch their content on Twitch, then like you got to come over the Twitch channel and do all that stuff. So the stream is just going to end for you guys, but I'll be back on Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And everybody on Twitch, let's see who else is out here painting stuff. Useless Wizard is on. He's super fun. I usually raid him on Tuesdays. Anybody else that I haven't rated? Let's see. Let's just raid. Let's raid him. He's always fun. So, like I said, I'll be back Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific time, working on some more Ultra Wolves, whatever we want to call them. We'll start this raid up and get on out of here. I'll see you next time.